Hey everybody, it's Craig Syracusa from Walk in Faith. I am so excited to be sitting down with Michelle Diedrich, who is the Senior Executive for Global Media Outreach. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's early, you're in Florida, I'm in New Jersey, but thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be here. Great to talk about what's going on.
So just in case, like I said, to be honest, I just came across the God Life and the website and your company. Can you explain a little bit about Global Media Outreach and also your role at the company?
Sure. I actually started with the ministry back in 2004 when we were first founded. I came out of a software background. So when I met the founder and he was talking about, hey, you can actually reach people at their point of need in that moment, and they're coming to you. That was our model online and being able to share Jesus that way. It was like a big light bulb went on in my head. You know how people use Google search or search engines nowadays. Imagine all the times they're searching for spiritual things. You know, is there a God? Why am I here? What is life worth living? Especially now, right? With what's going on with the pandemic. We had found a way to respond to them right then. And that was very new at the time. And of course, now it's all exploded over the years. But I just thought that model of being able to do that. And also we have, volunteers that respond to these people, and they're not paid missionaries or professional missionaries. They're Christians just like you and I who just want to share Jesus. So those were the two things that got me so excited about being a part of this, and I've been with them ever since.
Wow. And you're very modest, but I want to read this headline, right? Let me just read this, which I could not believe it when I read this. And it was on the press release. So let me just read this. Sorry. Of course it said Global Media Outreach, which I love, internet evangelism's top 2 billion gospel presentations worldwide, which represents around 223 million people. I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, and like you said, first of all, Walt seems like a great guy. So I was reading a lot about him and those 3 questions that he asked, which I thought were fascinating when he decided to move forward with this company. And you're right. People ask these questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And unfortunately, if you do some searches, you'll find misinformation, right? People will, depending on what you're looking for, you'll find, why am I here? To be successful. What's successful mean in the eyes of society? A lot of money, a lot of cars. And there's all this miscommunication and misinformation. And the fact that you have these volunteers that are missionaries, that's amazing. I mean, you're spreading the gospel. You're not leading them to buy some motivational book that's, going to, guarantee riches and fulfill happiness, which we know is not. So tell me a little bit about, how do you, number one, ensure that these people go to the right websites, or ensure to build this foundation of faith? How do you once they're interested, how do you move them on their their path?
Well, it's just like anything else. When you are looking to book your vacation, or you are looking to buy a car, for example, you're going online, you're searching, you're putting in words or phrases to try to find the best deals or the answers you're looking for. This is kind of the same thing, where people are going online and asking those questions like you were talking about. And what we do is we have the ads that say, hey, if you want to know why you're here, we can tell you. And they will then get to a website, or if it's on Facebook, they'll get to our Facebook page or Instant Messenger or Instagram, and they will find out who Jesus is and why Jesus is the answer. And then there's someone there to answer their questions and pray for them and help them find a church. So basically, it starts with someone who is on that spiritual journey, or they see something that triggers them to look. There is no bait and switch, and we're not selling anything. We don't charge for anything. Everything is free, because we just want people to know about Jesus and what Jesus can do for them, especially now. That's what we're seeing so much of, and people that we normally wouldn't see come to our websites because they're at home. There's no distractions. They're afraid. If you look at Google Trends on the searches for fear and anxiety and depression, those numbers are just going like way, way up. And so people are looking for peace. They're looking for hope. And that is what Jesus will bring them. And so when they search on these things and they get to us, we have people that can respond to them and share who Jesus is and how to have that relationship. And from there, if they want to know more, we can take them through studies, Bible studies, and get them connected to a church. So it really is a whole journey for someone, and they can do part of it or all of it or whatever works for them.
And what I love too is, and I went on the website, and like you said, you're not selling anything. And I was able to search different gospels, there was like a 30-day devotional, and there was like a small print that said, if you would like for someone to contact you. It wasn't like a constant pop-up that made me feel uncomfortable to say, okay, now I'm uncomfortable. I knew I shouldn't have went on this website. I was so comfortable that I actually wanted someone to engage with me a little bit more and say, would you like more information? But I felt so comfortable, and I was able to look at all the different gospels, and I said, wow, I can read parables. And it was so easy to work through the website. And you're right. This is a time. We're in a crisis, right? And whenever there's a crisis, people, they look and they grab and they reach for things. And unfortunately, it's faith. But we said off camera, a lot of churches, not especially, I work in the Catholic space. A lot of them didn't use social media. But we're seeing now the importance of social media, the importance of using this technology. And you're the pioneers of this. Why is technology important, especially to push out the gospel message?
Well, technology, like anything else, it's just a tool. But how many people, are living on this nowadays, right? They've got their phone. They are, especially the younger generation, but forget the younger generation. When my mom got a Facebook page, I knew technology was important, right? And that is where people are living nowadays. So if my comment has always been, if the church is not there to use this, what are people going to find? And it won't be something good. So the church has to use these tools to be there. It's what we are meant to do, but it is just a tool. It's a gateway. It's a bridge just to serve people. But you have to take advantage of it. The great thing is for churches nowadays, especially, a lot of the tools that are out there are so easy. It's not the way it used to be where you had to be a technology guru to get these things up and running and working right. No, they have got it figured out now where you plug and play and get started. And really all you need is the will and maybe somebody younger to ask a few questions and then you can get started.
You're totally right. I mean, like I said, I was helping a lot of pastors this week just doing Facebook Live and Instagram. They were concerned about how to use it. And when you walk them through it, within a day, they didn't even need me anymore. I'm like, it's just amazing how easy it is. And you're right, this technology is not going anywhere. The fact that we're in this pandemic, and now churches, in a sense, need to use these platforms. They've been around, and all it is sort of a new way of communicating. Jesus and the disciples used the technology that was available to them, telling stories. They walked, they wrote everything down. We're just using the technology that's available to us. So when people, let's say, generally speaking, when people go on some of these websites, is it a specific demographic? Is it a specific background? Do you get atheists? Tell me what type of people usually search and you are, distributed into different websites.
Boy, it's really interesting because we're global. First of all, we're in multiple languages. We have people that come to the websites literally from every country in the world. And so that we use different techniques, if you will, in different countries. Some countries are more difficult because of government restrictions than others. But what we find is generally when people get there, obviously they've clicked on something. We're not forcing anyone to do anything. So they're coming to us, which is another beautiful thing about this. And we can just share with them the answers to their questions and praying for them. What we found though during the pandemic, and this is a little different, most of the time when people were coming to us, they probably had a little bit of knowledge or they knew what they were looking for. We are now seeing actually more people, and I think it's because there's more opportunity right now. We're seeing people that are earlier in that spiritual journey. So they're asking more questions. When we look at the campaigns we're doing to try to reach people right now, we're actually seeing a little bit lower number of people raising their hands saying, I want to follow Jesus. And we believe they're clicking on, I have more questions. And so they're a little earlier in the journey. So we get all kinds, and it's not just young people. The age ranges are, it's all ages. And so we literally see pretty much every demographic, and we have different websites that appeal to different people or answer specific needs that they have, whether it's fear or relationships or finances, those things that they're dealing with every day, we want to be able to help them with. And so different demographics respond to the different sites.
So, and what's interesting too, and I was reading that, you're able to get into places that obviously we can't, right? I mean, some of the places Christianity is not accepted. Some of these places are war zones, depending on the country. But you're able to get there with, obviously, with your message, with the gospel message. I mean, tell me about that. And are there any stories that really stand out? Like any testimonials or anyone that really stands out throughout this 15 years you've been working for global media outreach?
I will tell you one story. It's interesting because obviously Middle Eastern countries, uh, certain other countries where Christianity is not accepted, the great thing about our model is it allows for what we call anonymous intimacy, meaning you can come online and it's a safe place for you to explore, and you don't have to reveal your information, right? You can just talk to an online missionary, and that person coming in doesn't see our volunteers' personal information either. It's kind of a meet in the middle in this anonymous black box where they can learn and grow. And that allows us to reach into areas where a missionary on the ground may not be able to get to. And obviously the internet is pretty much everywhere. Cell phones, the number of cell phones has just exceeded the number of people that have toothbrushes in some countries. It's just exploded. And so that is how we get in there. And I'll share just one story from earlier on. We had a guy, we were doing these chat Bible studies online, and I had someone come on, Anon, and he was from India, but he was in Pakistan, and he worked on an oil rig. And so he only got to see his family once a year or twice a year, maybe, talk to them occasionally. And he had come to Christ through one of our websites and began this study. And as I got to know more about him, he shared with me that I was the only Christian that he knew.
Wow.
And so here he was in a very Muslim country, but trying to follow Jesus and wanted that connection. And boy, it really hit me as we were talking, because the likelihood of me going to Pakistan is, sort of, Lord, I'm not sure, that would be a country for me to go to. But I didn't have to see his face to be able to share with him and make that connection and pray for him and go through this Bible study. But it made me realize what the internet allows us to do in meeting people all over the world who have one thing in common. They all need Christ, right? They all need that relationship with Jesus. And so that was what struck me, of being able to reach someone who is out in the middle of the ocean most of the time on this oil rig, to be able to connect that way. And that's just one example. I'll share one other one, a recent one from the pandemic. This guy, Jack, suffering from PTSD, and he came to one of our sites and was dealing with a lot of fear, and he wasn't able to get out because of the situation to go see his therapist. And so the online missionary was just praying for him and sharing Jesus with him and trying to help him through this. But they had that online connection, and we're not therapists, but that allows that relationship for Jack to have that connection and that ability to be with someone and have that comfort and prayer, even though he's dealing with a pandemic. He's stuck at home. He doesn't know what to do. And he's limited in getting the usual help he might be getting. And so we see people from all ends of the spectrum coming on but our one goal is to be there for them and serve them and show them how to have that relationship.
Wow, that's amazing. So now, I mean, as you're telling the story, I could see sort of the emotional connection. So this isn't a job for you, right? This is, I mean, would you
No.
consider this your work? Is this your calling? What would you consider this?
It is. It's interesting. I'd never worked in a ministry before. I was in software, and this just has changed my life. I think when I first saw the possibility of what technology could do, that was very attractive. But what really got me was the ability to talk to someone from across the world online, and for anybody, any Christian, to be able to do that and help someone. That's really hit me hard, I think. And the other thing is the scale. So you mentioned the 2 billion. I remember the first day that we hit a million gospel presentations in one day.
Wow.
And before that time, honestly, I'm not too big of a numbers person. And obviously we're just really beginning. 2 billion is just part of the world population. But that was the day when I really said, you know what? Our vision is to reach everyone on earth with the gospel. And when we crossed that 1 million in that one day, I said, you know what? We can do this. God is going to open that door, and we are really going to do that. And here we are 15 years later, and we're crossing 2 billion gospel presentations and seeing so many millions of people, 200, 250 million, raise their hand and say, you know what, I want to follow Jesus. And then our online missionaries helping these people and contacting them. It's just amazing. I've never seen anything else like this. I've never seen the scale of something like this. But to me, the real beauty of it is the ability to help other people and be able to do that online and do that every day with people I will probably never meet until I get to heaven. I mean, that's what did it for me.
That's amazing. I always make a joke, and I always say there's no KPI in the Holy Spirit. And I mean, to be able to reach 2 billion people in these stories, like I do videos every day, and I pray at least I impact one person, because that's all I care about is just that one. But 2 billion, and just the way I just love your spirit. I love the way you explain the stories. I mean, what you're doing is so powerful. And I've had this conversation, and we spoke about it. You know, I see a lot of people coming to Christ, a lot of people doing prayer intention, a lot of people talking about faith because we're in a crisis. And my fear is life gets back to the new normal. And I read all these CDC guidelines, and I'm afraid that people are going to put God or Jesus back in the closet and say, okay, God, you served your purpose during the storm. How do we ensure and how do we continue to build this relationship with Christ beyond the pandemic?
I think the key, and this is what we have found with this ministry particularly, is continuing to get that message out. And you know how that goes. You have to see something several times before it sinks in. Well, the beauty of the internet is everyone is on the internet. So if we can continue to get that message out, when they hit that spiritual point, and of course, the other great thing with the way internet advertising works now is you can reach people by looking at what they're looking for. And so if we can meet them at their point of need, that's how we continue to do it. When they're at that point in their journey where they're ready to look for something, we have to be there. When I say we, I don't mean just the ministry. I mean the church as a whole. We can't just stay on the street corner and hope that they come in through the doors.
Yes.
We've got to be there and meet them at their point of need. And that is very missional for us. And I believe that the churches are starting to understand the power of what the internet can do for them to be able to do that and serve their communities that way.
I totally agree with you. I 100% agree. So now during crisis, during unfortunately this pandemic, you know, sometimes we have to think outside the box. There are opportunities that arise. What opportunities or what sort of form of way of thinking? What have you been influenced by during this pandemic? So when life gets back to the new normal, you'll sort of adapt to that.
I think the things that we've had to do particularly is bring on more volunteers on different channels. We respond to people by email. We respond to people through Facebook, these different things. But we've had to move more people onto the social media channels like Instant Messenger because there is such an immediate need. So that has changed for us. We've always been at that point of need, but we're expanding that. The other thing is people are dealing with different things right now than what they normally deal with when you think about the needs people have. A lot of times we're working with people on relationships and finances and those that are driving them to Christ to understand they can't solve those problems. Christ is the answer to that. Career success is not going to solve their problems. You know, they need Jesus. What we're seeing now is more and more people with fear, anxiety, and depression. And that is changing for us, or expanding, I should say. People had to deal with that, but we're seeing so many more. We've created a lot of content to help people through those issues, giving them some encouragement and some help with those particular issues of what does the Bible say? How does Jesus help you? What did Jesus go through that might relate to what you're going through right now with fear of the future and the need for hope and peace? And why am I so anxiety driven right now? How do I deal with that? I'm stuck at home. You think about Paul being stuck in the prison. How did he deal with that? And how did he have that freedom in his heart, even though he didn't have freedom to move around? So there's so many examples of that in the Bible that can help people. We've started to put together a lot of content around that. And I think that will stay for a while. This is not one and done, as you know. This is going to be a long curve, and there will be a new normal, even though things will come back. A lot of things are changing, and we need to be there to help people through all of those issues.
I love that. It's something I talk about every day. It's about building. This is a lifestyle. It's not, and you have to build a strong foundation, a routine. And I have a routine every day, because otherwise the enemy, right, comes. You watch the news, you look at social media, and all of a sudden the direction of your day goes in a different path. And you really have to stay focused. And this is something you must do every day. So what do you do personally? Because I mean, you're running this company. I mean, you obviously, you're probably, there's days where you wake up or you're afraid, or the enemy starts to enter your mind where you say, what's the next steps? What do we do now? Like, how do you stay focused? How do you stay connected to your faith personally?
I wish I could say, hey, I'm super Christian and it all is great every day and I just get up and do my thing. But I deal with those same kinds of issues. And for me, there are three keys, I think, that help me. And I've seen it help other people too. Obviously, I may be in doing ministry all day, but we're also doing business. Mm-hmm. And so you're dealing with people, you're dealing with money, you're dealing with all the additional things in addition to helping people. So there are certainly stresses, schedule stresses. So for me, I think starting each day with prayer, actually our company starts each day with prayer. The whole group, we get together, we're praying about one of our employees, his grandmother just got moved to hospice. We've got another employee whose daughter is a nurse, and so she's dealing with COVID patients. And so we're praying for them. We're praying for our volunteers. We're praying for the people coming in, and because we are praying for each other and for others, it really puts it into perspective on your own life. So that's one thing I think is that prayer every day is really helpful. And then the other thing is just being in the scripture. And I'm not talking about, I have to read my Bible for an hour every day, although that would be great if people can do that. But sometimes just one or two verses or a song. You know how it is. If you're working out, you got that one song and that gets you going, that gets you charged up. Same idea, where God can use that, because what you read, what you see, what you listen to, that's what gets into your heart. Mm-hmm. So if you can unplug the news a little bit and just replace it with what God wants you to hear, that's what you'll remember during the day, not the negative buildup of all the energy coming from all the things that we're hearing that are frightening or anxiety driving. So that's what I do. It's an everyday journey though. I think it is for everybody. There's no secret solution to it.
I totally agree. And you're right. When people come to Christ or they become Christian, they think, okay, I found God, I have a relationship, and life just gets easier. And it doesn't. It's something you have to work on every single day. Like you said, I replaced music with podcasts. I only watch documentaries or Christian films or TV shows because I don't want to be influenced by, what society says. So, okay, but pandemic's on. How can people find out more about whether it's God Life, about your company, GMO? What are some of the resources or some of the websites that you could share with us?
Well, so I think the first place to go to learn about the ministry is globalmediaoutreach.com. And obviously that's a mouthful, but that's what we do. Global Media Outreach. That's exactly describes kind of what we do. That's where you can learn about the ministry. I think praying for us, we would just ask people to pray for us. Obviously the way we do this, because we don't sell anything, everything comes from donations. We are completely donation driven. So giving, volunteering, we are getting ready. I don't know if you were seeing some of the numbers, but the number of people coming to us is growing. So our need for volunteers is growing. And so there are a lot of opportunities to get engaged. And then I would say people get engaged on your own too, on your own Facebook pages, what you post. Remember that everything you do is a witness. Every word you write, sometimes it feels like online that that's not necessarily really you. You can kind of step away from it, but people read everything you write. So that would be the other thing I would say, is think about how you can share what Jesus has done for you.
I love that. You're right. People have the ability. Volunteering is something we can all do from home. So we're all and also monitoring what we put on social media. Because the one thing I always think about for myself is, I say I'm a Christian, I go to church, but then on my posts, my actions, my deeds, and my words, are they all in line, or am I a walking contradiction? Something I think about on a daily basis before I respond, before I want people to see how I am today. This is how I am every day. I don't change depending on if I'm going to mass or I'm, driving my car or going to work. Michelle, it has been a pleasure to speak with you. I really appreciate your time. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please look up GMO, look up God Life. Michelle, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Guys, remember, we have the ability to inspire and evangelize through your words and actions. God bless you.